your finished product. You guys buckle up. This one's going to be a little lengthy. Hey guys, Chris with Tillman Family Farms. We are back for the finale of this How to Be a Pig Farmer series that we've been doing. Apologize for the road noise. We're up here at the closest point to the road at the farm. So today we're going to talk about a couple of things that are going to finish you out. Okay, so we're going to talk about what your inputs are to these pigs, so that those inputs are going to get you to a cost of how much money do you have per pig. Okay, the other thing that we're going to touch on pretty good is your cuts of meat, and then hopefully we're going to talk a little bit about your farmers market setup. So we're out here with a pig group that is actually going to the butcher on the 4th, so that's next Thursday, I think. So we've got a trailer all set up, and I'd like to show you guys real quick, because we hadn't had the opportunity to do this in this series, but I want to show you, last time we did structures, well, here's the ramp that was in the structure video. So now I'm going to show you how we have it set up real quick, and then we'll move on from that pretty quickly. I just want you guys to see this, because this is how we load groups of pigs without putting a lot of stress on them, and makes it really, really easy to get them on the trailer when it's time to go. All right, so here's the deal. The trailer is out here to stay until it's time to go. This ramp is built to be at the back door of the trailer, and then it is open to the pig's paddock. Okay, now I've got this wire, this hot wire, that still goes all around the whole entire pen. We've got it in a water hose up over the top of this, so that it doesn't stop them from going in and out. And then they're in the same pen. We thought we were gonna have one more move, but the butcher called and said, hey, I can get you in now, so we're gonna get them off the feed bill. But the fact of it is that they're, and you can see the big bulk feeder way over there is turned over. I actually need to get it out of here, but we emptied out the rest of what was in it, and until they go, they'll be fed on this trailer, and they've taken to it pretty good. We set this up yesterday. They've taken to it pretty good already, and when Jamie was out here earlier putting some feed in the trailer, all 10 of these pigs were off and on that trailer like it was just no big deal. So this is going to work out pretty good. No stress. Feed them like this for a week, and then the day that you're ready to go, you come out, hook your truck up, and you feed them, pull forward, shut the door on them, take them to town. Just that simple. All right, so let's talk a few minutes about your inputs. All right, so at this point, you're about to take your animals to the butcher to be packaged, and that's going to be your last expenditure. I got a hot rod. That's going to be your last expenditure, and what you need to do up until that point, we talked about keeping records of how much feed you fed each group and all that kind of stuff. So besides feed and your labor, and then the cost of processing, so those are your three major things that are going to be your inputs going into your finished product. And once you get those things, I'm going to show you some math here in a minute. I'm going to do a screen that's got some math and some explanations of what's what and why, so that you can understand where my numbers come from. So we'll talk about feed for just a second. So feed, when piglets are small, they're not eating very much. I mean, all the way up until about a month, they might be eating a pound or 2.5 pounds or whatever. And then as they grow, they're going to eat more and more and more and more. So we came up with an average to be able to come up with some numbers that we felt pretty good about across the board with using them. So on average, throughout a pig's lifespan, not throughout their whole life, but through a pig's lifespan, they're going to eat between 6 and 8 pounds of feed per day. And when they get this size, They might be eating 12, 14, 15 pounds a day. I mean, it just depends on how you give it to them. If you're giving it to them in a bulk ration, you can, take how many bags you're feeding a week or how many pounds you're feeding a week and break it down, divided by how many pigs are in there. Anyway, like I say, on a screen here in just a minute in this video, you'll see some math in there, and you'll kind of start understanding what I'm talking about when I'm talking about inputs when it comes to the pigs. Now, I'm gonna put a line in there for labor. A lot of people, when they get into this, they start out by not charging for their labor. I'm guilty, I did it too. But you have got to charge for your labor. You've got to figure out how to account for the time that you put in. Now, what you decide your time is worth, whether it's $10 an hour or whether it's $25 an hour, that's up to you. I mean, you've got to figure that out in your mind and your heart. What's it worth to you to get out here and do this 3, 4, 5 hours a week from moving pigs and feeding pigs, and figure out how much time you actually spent with them based on those tracking sheets that we talked about. Mm-hmm. So once you see the math on that, you'll understand where all that comes from. Some of you might be shocked, and then some of you might not be. But at the end of this math, it's going to be up to you. How much profit do you want to make? Do you want to make 10% above your cost? Do you want to make 35% above your cost? All of that is up to you, and that's what will tell you how much money you need to get out of one of these pigs, and also how much money you've invested in one of these pigs. All right, enough of that math stuff. Now I want to talk to you about cuts and what type of cuts, how we do it, and that's what I'm going to explain to you, and I'm going to explain to you why. There's a lot of cuts that we don't get, and I'll explain why that is, but things like hams, ham steaks, we don't do whole Boston butts for the most part in some cases. So some of the reasoning for that is that we cut a pig to get the most meals out of that animal. And on a flip side, if you go to a market and you have these customers coming up and you give them your story, you tell them about you tell them why you're doing what you're doing, and you're telling them how much better this meat is for them versus the nonsense, junk at the grocery store that's got all this crap added to it, hormones and antibiotics and all this other stuff. So when you give that story, you might can convince them to buy a smaller pack of pork chops, but you're not going to convince them to buy a $75 Boston butt when they can go to the store and get one for a whole lot less than that. Okay, you have to sell what this is, and you have to be knowledgeable about it yourself and what the benefits of pasture raising pigs is versus what it is in a production farm that has lagoons that are full of nothing but hog manure and hog urine and all of these things that are being held on a small piece of property that is affecting the groundwater. It's affecting, all of the farms or all of the land around it. There's all sorts of negatives to that particular thing. So anyhow, that is probably one of the biggest selling points right there. So let's get into the cuts and why we do what we do. All right, so I'm going to start with all of the ground stuff that we process or have processed. So most of your ground comes from trimmings from different parts of the pig as they're trimming up pork chops or trimming up bacon side or fresh green bellies. That when they're squaring it up and all that stuff, there's trimmings off everything. When they debone something, there's trimmings. So you get this big pile of trimmings that you can turn into ground pork. You can turn it into many different flavors of pork breakfast sausage: hot, medium, mild, extra hot, all kinds of stuff. Then you get into flavors of ground sausages. So we sell a lot of flavored ground sausage just simply because people asked us for it. We didn't start off getting, you know, different flavors like chorizo or kibasi, or which is Polish, brats. We didn't get a lot of those in 1 pound just ground packages. So we started off getting those in ground links so that they were grilling sausage. We couldn't keep it in the freezer. People bought it as fast as we could get it. There is no doubt that you can sell sausage, okay? So that's the ground stuff that we do. You have to be able to tell some of these people too, what are you using ground pork for? You know, there's going to be recipes that specifically read, you've got to use ground pork for this recipe. But you can also eat ground pork burgers. You can also eat ground pork meatballs in your spaghetti. You can also eat, ground pork sausage balls with breakfast stuff. I mean, there's just, the list goes on and on and on of the things that you can do with these different meats. Be knowledgeable about that. Try your own product. Be able to speak for what you are selling taste-wise, what you can compare it to, and all those different things. That's very, very important. So next thing we'll talk about is pork chops. So the big deal is bone in or boneless. So there's a lot of people out there that like boneless. So when we first started doing this, that was a big thing. I want to say the first 3 or 4 pigs that we did was all boneless. And we learned very, very fast that people wanted a bone-in pork chop. Every now and again, we'll do boneless chops, but for the most part, we do all bone-in. And we have had really, really good success with that. When it comes to a loin chop, which is almost like I guess maybe the T-bone, maybe. It looks just like a T-bone steak. So, and then some of them get as the bone changes as you're going through the rear loin there, it changes a little bit, the bone structure in that meat. But we have had better success selling bone-in pork chops than boneless pork chops, okay? Be aware too that in some cases, if you do, say, a bone-in pork chop, you may not get baby back ribs. And if you do baby back ribs, you're gonna have boneless pork chops. Learn the anatomy of the animal and where the cuts come from, and where and all that stuff, so that you'll be able to explain that too. Touch one more thing on the ground stuff. So when you get into the hams back there, you can do so many cured hams and you can probably sell them eventually. We choose to grind most of our hams, both hams on just about every pig, simply because we know that we can quickly sell sausage and ground pork and all these other things. We know we can sell that really fast. If I had this, 20-pound ham back there, or 25-pound ham back there, I could probably cure it and cut ham steaks off of it and sell that pretty easily. But it would be difficult for me to sell that big of a chunk of meat because people get sticker shock. Even people that live this way and buy this way week in and week out, they come to the market, oh, I bet they've got a ham. I'm gonna get me a ham today. And they show up and you pull out this beautiful, cured ham, and they're like, okay, that's what I want to do. And then you tell them price on it. They're like, whoa, maybe I need to get 3 or 4 packs of pork chops, and couple things of breakfast sausage, and we might do that ham again, you know, another day. But so it's hard to sell big cuts of meat at these prices, what it's actually worth. Okay, so keep that in mind when you're doing stuff like this, and you'll be more successful, and you won't sit on pieces of meat like that for a long time. All right, so let's talk about Boston butts. Boston butts. You get all these people, I want this big old butt. Well, here you go in the same scenario that we're talking about with the hams. So you got this big old piece of meat, and it's got a big old price tag on it. So we normally split our butts in half, or we will have them sliced into 3/4 or 1 inch shoulder steaks. That has become pretty popular with us because it ends up with a steak, you know, that's as long as a Boston butt and as thick as they are to the shoulder cap, and that works out really, really well. When you do that, you'll learn that there's a shoulder roast, there's a picnic roast, and all that stuff. But when you split them like that, you end up with 2 butts. Is basically what you get. And they can range anywhere depending on the size of the hog. Anywhere from 3.5 to 5.5 pounds. So I mean, it's a decent sized butt. And if somebody's really serious about barbecuing with what you're selling, they'll just buy 2. But you're not stuck with this big piece of meat that's hard to sell. You can always sell somebody 2 of them if they need that much, or you can sell them 1 because that's all they want. All right, so we'll touch one last time on sliced items like your pork chops, and your if you so decide to slice your Boston butts into pork shoulder steaks. Keep in mind that most of the time you have somebody that's coming to you that's going to be a couple, and they're at least going to want 2. So we try to package all of our pork chops and all of our sliced meats like that in packs of 2. We can normally stay pretty good with that, and we'll end up between a pound and about 1 3/4 pounds. So, ooh, excuse me. So normally it works out just right, and we have rave reviews over pork steaks, man. People cook them just like they cook a beef steak, and we get messages on Facebook and all kinds of stuff. Man, that pork steak was such a good cut of meat, and we appreciate you guys turning us on to it and all that stuff. So, you know, keep in mind, keep your packaging to where it's not so expensive, but it's accommodating to people. Even if you did them in 1 packet or 1 cut per package, you can always sell somebody 2. But if you got 5 pork chops in a pack and it's all of a sudden this great big expensive pack, you may have a hard time selling that. So just keep those things in mind when you're packaging. Most of the time, your processor, he will put your farm name on your package. Of course, it has to be USDA inspected in most states. I'm in Georgia. All that stuff has to be inspected. You can also print some custom labels with your farm name on them. Just say your processor's printing equipment doesn't have that function to put that farm name on it. You can print some labels, but if you do that, you need to give those labels to your processor, because when you get that meat back, it's going to be frozen. It's going to be extremely hard to get a sticker to stick to it. So think ahead, and if that's the case, have you some labels made. Make sure they're the right kind of labels. You don't want these paper labels that are going to turn to crap when they get a little wet or whatever. Get those labels stuck on there, and talk to these people about packaging. Talk to them about the way you want it to look, and be the most presentable to your customers. Make your package of meat look like you care about the way it goes into a bag, and then the way somebody takes it home and shows it to somebody else. All right, last piece, and then I'm gonna let you guys get on to farming. And if you have any questions about any of this stuff, the farm email is on this YouTube page, and also you can leave comments in the comment boxes down below, and I always try to make sure that I get to all comments and questions. It may be a week or 2 because we got a lot of things going on, but I always try to get back to them. So the last part of this is your farmers market setup. Okay, I have a video on our farmers market setup, and what it should be like, how you should present yourself, and how much care you need to take in that setup. You don't want to look like some sloppy Joe that came out here and set up your dirty cafeteria table with no tablecloth on it, and you got 2 coolers that are dirty as crap. You had beer in them last weekend or whatever. You want to buy some very specific coolers. You want those coolers to match. You want them to be big enough to hold some stuff, and you want them to look good. Pick a color theme. Whether a lot of people do red and white for farms, you can buy a pop-up 10x tent that has red and white stripes on it. You can buy a plain white tent. You can buy a plain red tent. I think actually we goofed around and waited a little too late this year when we were replacing our tent. We ended up with a blue tent, and it doesn't really match. So don't hate me for that. I'm gonna put a picture in here in a minute of our farmers market setup so you guys can look and see what that is currently. It's changed a little bit from what it was last year. But tables, cafeteria tables, we use black tablecloths, stretchy tablecloths that go up under the feet. They look very presentable. And we use red and white Igloo coolers. They're all the same. They go all the way across the top of our tables. So at these farmers markets, we're selling pork, some beef when we have it. We're selling chicken when we have it, eggs when we have them. Actually, we always have eggs, but these are the things that you need to have displayed and displayed well. You need something to price all of this stuff to the people that are looking. We use a whiteboard that's actually metal. Jamie took some magnetic strips and she took her Cricut machine and she labeled everything, you know, pork chops X amount, sausage X amount, eggs X amount, jams and jellies X amount. And if we happen to sell out of them, we can go out there and we can remove that magnet from the board so that we don't disappoint our customers when they walk up and say, hey, I'd like a pack of boneless pork chops. Sorry, we're out of them. I forgot to take the magnet off. We try to take the magnet off. We try to keep up with it. We also had a banner made that has our farm name on it, and it says Pasture Raised Meats, and it's got a phone number on it. It's got pig and chicken and all these other things. Checking out the ramp over here. But anyhow, the farmers market setup is really, it's kind of like your point of sale. It's kind of like when you're riding down the road and you see this really cool new store. They got all these big glass in the front of it and all these fancy things in the windows to draw you in. That's just saying, hey, come shop here. That's what you're looking for. You want to look better than the guy set up 2 booths down that's trying to do the same thing you are. Be prepared, spend some time, get on YouTube, look up farmers market setups. I know of several people you can go to right now. Jamie over at Seven Stands Farm, he's got a really nice farmers market setup. Chuck Lewis from Sheraton Park Farms has got a really nice farmers market setup. And then there's a whole host of other ones out there. Really, guys? These guys, they don't have any couth. So study that stuff. Make it a really nice looking setup that people want to stop and come see you. Be prepared to tell them your story and your farm journey and why you're doing what you're doing. So I'm almost 100% positive that there are things that I haven't covered. There's a lot of other cuts of meat out there that you guys can go and study and see what you think you can sell. But know what you can get out of a pig. I would suggest that you do your own cut sheets. Don't just get the cut sheet from the guy at the processor. Take your cut sheet and know what you're talking about. Study these butchering videos and what you get out of a pig and what you think you can sell based on what you can get out of that pig. And then grind the rest of it, because you know you can sell sausage. You can sell sausage all day long. So do those things. I hope you guys are successful with this. We love it. I think you guys are going to love it too once you get into it this far. So be patient. There's always ups and downs with anything and everything that you'll do. But you know, all you can do is sit back and pray about it and do all of the things that you need to do. And if something doesn't work for you, study some more. You're always going to be studying about this and finding new ways to do things. So like I said before, if you got any comments or questions, leave them down in the comments down below, and I'll try to get to every single one of them. We appreciate you guys watching. We appreciate all the new subscribers that we've gotten here lately. And we're going to keep on keeping on. This spring's getting fired up. Thinking about doing a chicken video series kind of the same way as this one is, but I don't know yet. We'll see. We're also have picked up sheep here recently, so we're probably going to start doing some sheep videos, which is going to be interesting. So once again, thanks for watching, and we will see you guys on the next video.